Hi folks, and welcome back for step 4, the final stage of brewing your beer, which is packaging. So as you can see, my beer has finished, and I had the benefit of being able to keep this in a cold place for a day or two at the end of the 2 weeks, and all of the yeast and stuff settled to the bottom. We want to try not to disturb that when we're pouring, so we want to keep as much of that out of the final containers as we want. I also have a bunch of these PET bottles, so hopefully you collected those, you've washed them, and you've sterilised them, and you've let them drain. Especially if you're using bleach as your sanitizer. If you are, you could rinse with boiling water afterwards and then leave them to drain, because we really don't want to get any of that residual bleach flavour left in the bottles. If you're using a no-rinse sanitizer like iodophor or citizen, don't worry about that. So what we need to do is, into each bottle we need to add some sugar and then fill it up with the beer, screw the lid back on as tightly as possible and shake it up, just to make sure everything's dispersed. We're then going to leave that in a warm place for the yeast to eat up that additional sugar, producing more carbon dioxide and carbonating the beer. So that's why this time we're closing it. You need to use 7 grams of sugar for every 1 litre of beer. So depending on the size of your bottle, if you're using 750ml bottles, it's about 1 teaspoon. If you're using 330ml bottles, then it's going to be 1/2 teaspoon. I'm using 500ml bottles, I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon as well. Don't put too much in because they can explode on you, and then you just end up with a mess and no beer. So yeah, 7 grams per litre, and 1 teaspoon is about 5 or 6 grams, depending on how fine the sugar is, etc. So yeah, if you're in that vicinity, that's fine. I have here, the only thing I have to help me is a funnel which has been sanitized and left to dry, because I don't want the sugar sticking to it. You might find this easier to do if you have someone to help you. So go along and put the sugar in each of the bottles and then come back and add the beer to each bottle. Because once the funnel gets wet, the sugar's going to stick to it and it's going to be hard to get into the bottle. So I'm just going to do one as a demo and then we'll be wrapped up and you can go on. So I did actually spray the outside of my bottles with sanitizer before I opened them, just in case there was some contaminants on there. I have my 1/2 teaspoon measure of sugar that's going in there. You would have seen that was level. I'm not trying to build it up and squeeze extra. There we go, as this has been warming up, you could feel the carbonation that had built up in there. So I'm just going to pour this in very slowly, trying not to disturb the stuff on the bottom of this bottle. It actually smells excellent already. I'm going to come almost to the top. There we go. Because I'm not doing all my other ones immediately, I'm just going to close that up so it stays sanitary. And take out the filter and keep that in a sanitary space. And we're going to close this, put the lid back on. Okay, it's on there firmly. I'm just going to give it a decent shake to make sure that sugar is mixed throughout that. And I'm going to leave this in a warm place for at least a week, preferably 2. And in that time, the rest of that sugar is going to get eaten up by the yeast and carbonate this. You'll be able to feel the bottle starts getting firm as the carbonation builds. When I say warm, I mean about 25 degrees. So in winter, that's going to be in a warm place indoors. In summer, it probably means a cooler place. I'll be back in another week or 2 and we have a tasting of it. Thanks very much.